It's time to hear about Dharavi, and we have two presentations on Dharavi this afternoon. The first from Mukesh Mehta, who is chairman of Consultants. Please. Join us.
So please turn off your mobile phones and Blackberries.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Co-Chairman, fellow panelists, ladies and gentlemen. It's truly an honor and a privilege for me to be here today. And in some ways, I feel that describing or demonstrating what the Dharavi project is all about is somewhat like a bottle of fine wine. 10 minutes is simply not enough to cover all the, absorb all the complexities. I'll try my best. I'm involved with Dharavi project for the last 10 years. At that time, I had more hair and they were all black. For the last 4.5 years, I'm involved with the government of Maharashtra on this project. And at that time, it was perceived that the project will take off in 6 months after we started. And it's 4.5 years, and now we are just about to take it off. And that's because the government has been very, very sensitive to the fact that all the stakeholders should be interacted with, and we had to be very sensitive to their needs. And that's what we have been doing for the last 4.5 years. My very first office, before these 10 years, I used to build expensive custom homes in Long Island, New York. And after having come here, I have started working on Dharavi project, which is the other end of the spectrum. So my son thinks I'm very versatile, and my wife thinks I'm very confused. And I'm going to do my best not to confuse you all. In order to understand Dharavi, and the project about 10 years ago, I set up my very first office in Dharavi for about 6 months. Because about 10 years ago, I had no understanding about poverty, about the way slum dwellers lived, etc. And if I was going to invest in the project, and if I was going to be a developer there, I needed to be sure that I was fully conversant with the local ethos. And amongst the things that I saw in those 6 months changed my mindset quite a bit. So originally, where I had come there as a developer to try to exploit, to try to cash in on every real estate opportunity available, I found there people who were extremely hardworking, starting their days from as early as 5 or 6 in the morning, ending their days 11, 12, whatever, and still just barely making their sort of livelihood. And I found that these were very hardworking, very honest, very decent people. And they simply deserved better. The sad part is that though they are called encroachers, they themselves are in fact paying for the abode that they have, and subhuman abode for that matter. And at some point, I related them to myself. I realized that they're not very different from my father. My father came from a very small village in Gujarat, and he lived in a very small room in a chawl, as they call in India, in Ghatkopar. Luckily for me, before I was born, he had made his fortune. And he had moved into a huge mansion with tennis courts, etc. So I had really not understood what poverty was all about. But then I saw this bunch of people that I was dealing with who were in Mumbai, having broken their shackles from the villages, come here, aspire for better lives. And having spent 10 years in the US, I started comparing them not very differently from the migrant population that the US has. And I started telling myself that look at the way developed countries can really develop human resources. Look at the way a villager from Vietnam or a villager from India or Pakistan or Sri Lanka can go to US or UK or Canada and so many other developed countries, and they can, over a period of time, integrate with the mainstream. And what do they do that can make people integrate with the mainstream? And essentially, the buzzword that architects, urban designers use is sustainability, sustainability, sustainability all the time. Very frankly, I've used that word, but I had no understanding of it till I got into Dharavi. And I started evaluating what that sustainability would mean for the people of Dharavi. 5 minutes already over. Gosh. All right, I'm going to just rush through this. Fine bottle of wine. This is some of the pictures of Dharavi, please.